Paper Reaction video. Right into the NFL draft and, see who the players who were picked. Our thoughts on it. I only know some of these players. I've seen some of these players. I've heard about a lot of them. But Bryce Young, no surprise. Number one, unless you really had a feeling that Stroud or Richardson or Will Levis, that being said, you really thought they were going to have a lot more growth in the NFL than these other guys, than Young. I don't mind Young at one. However, how often do you see quarterbacks who get drafted after the top few picks end up being the best one in the class? Like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was drafted 12, 13. Mitch Trubisky was drafted before him. Mitchell Trubisky. The Chicago Bears traded up a whole bunch of picks to go to 3 so they could draft, or either 3 or 2, to draft Mitchell Trubisky. Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson went after him, I think. Or maybe it was just Deshaun Watson. Maybe it was Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. I don't know, there was quarterbacks drafted before Patrick Mahomes as well. Dak Prescott, drafted after a lot of quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, drafted after quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, drafted after quarterbacks. Then you see people like there's drafts like where Josh Rosen get drafted super high. Baker Mayfield drafted at 1. So you never really know. But at this point in time, you can only say Bryce Young, you have no fault with him being number 1. Then there's CJ Stroud. He looked really good at Ohio State. Really good in the college football playoff this year versus the University of Georgia. Really should have won that game if the kicker wasn't an absolute bum. But, I have no problem with the Houston Texans doing that. They did trade up. They trade the number 12 pick to get to 3 so they can draft Will Anderson, which meant, if you looked at the draft boards at the top prospects, Will Anderson was the number 1 rated prospect in the entire draft class. But most of the time, the number 1 prospect isn't going to go 1 because a lot of times it's valued off position, right? So quarterback is the most valued position in the NFL and football. So a lot of time they're going to be 1 unless it's like a poor draft class for quarterbacks, and then sometimes you'll get an edge guy at 1. Like Jadeveon Clowney was the number 1, but he was like, when Jadeveon Clowney came out of college, out of South Carolina, bro, he was literally they were talking about him as the next LeBron of the NFL, the next Jordan NFL, this freak of nature guy who's gonna absolutely change life for the Houston Texans. He was all right. He was good. He's still in the league. He's all right. He's good. I mean, he had a good couple of runs, good couple of years, but he was never life changing like that. Anthony Richardson went 4 to the Colts. Interesting to see what he's like in the NFL, considering he had throwing issues in college. However, he's extremely athletic, and we saw what Jalen Hurts was able to do. People forget Jalen Hurts lost his job to Tua Tagovailoa at the University of Alabama because he was not a good thrower of the football. He went to Oklahoma, played with Lincoln Riley, learned some better mechanics, and continued to progress even once he got to the league to get to where he is now. But Anthony Richardson could be a guideline to say, look at what Jalen Hurts was able to accomplish. And Anthony Richardson is a much better athlete than Jalen Hurts is. And Jalen Hurts is a great athlete. But Anthony Richardson is literally a freak of nature, and he's 6'4". So that's that. Devin Witherspoon. I said Devon. Devin Witherspoon. Great quarterback to go against the other side of Tariq Woolen on that vision. Hopefully he pans out. I don't know much about Devin Witherspoon, but hopefully he pans out. Of course, that was the pick that they got in that Russell Wilson trade. Who would have thought it'd be a top 5 pick? Crazy. Paris Johnson, offensive tackle, to Arizona. Not bad. Tyree Wilson at Texas Tech. Hopefully he pans out. Goes on the other side of Max Crosby. It's hard to say. Didn't my wait? I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe isn't Chandler Jones playing for the Raiders? I don't know. Bijan Robinson, Atlanta, high draft pick for running back. High draft pick for running back. He's gonna come out. He could be offensive rookie of the year first year because running backs when they come out of college and they're good and they're like instant immediate impact. I don't think that Bijan Robinson won't be good in the NFL. I have a feeling he's gonna be very good. I feel like he may be rookie of the year. He's gonna be he's gonna be top 5 running back in the NFL for the next couple of years. I want to see his longevity. I just hope they don't run him to the ground like we did Zeke. Jalen Carter. At some point, people were saying that he was a number 1 prospect in the draft class, so he got into legal trouble. But my man Mozzie Smith got drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, so he's no longer the best defensive tackle in the class. It's Mozzie Smith easily. Darnell White. I have no clue who that guy is, but he's a top 10 draft pick, so he must be pretty good. He went to Tennessee. Peter Skoronski. Now, he fell a little bit. A lot of people in the mock drafts had been looking, and they had Skoronski above Darnell White. Jahmyr Gibbs, surprise. I don't think I've ever saw him in one of the mock drafts, but running back, Alabama. Interesting, because what running back did the Lions get? They went and got David Montgomery. So, interesting, you went and paid David Montgomery money to go draft another running back. But okay, I feel like you could have got, maybe an outside receiver weapon. You really should have went and got my man, if he wasn't on draft, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Jackson Smith-Njigba was probably the best wide receiver in the class. Really good. I think much better than value than what Jahmyr Gibbs is going to give you as a running back, considering you went and paid David Montgomery. And not to mention that you're, what's this guy? Something Williams. Whatever. Their last year's number one pick for them was a receiver, and he got suspended due to gambling. He didn't gamble on NFL games, but he made a bet on NFL facility property, which is illegal, or not illegal, but against the policies. Luke Van Ness, edge player, Iowa. He went to the Green Bay Packers. This is a Lucas Van Ness. Look at this guy. This is a Green Bay Packer type of pick. I wouldn't expect anything less from him. Broderick Jones. This right here is a good old cornbread, collard greens with ham hock fat boy right here. Broderick Jones out of Georgia. I don't know if he's going to be any good, but he will definitely be eating whatever they have in Pittsburgh. It's probably not. It doesn't sound like they have good food in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh doesn't sound like a very good eating city. Will McDonald, the 4th, Iowa State. Not gonna lie, I haven't heard of him. Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback, Mississippi State, went to Washington Commanders. He is in my division, so I don't wish any ill intent against him. Like, I don't wish he's terrible, but, I hope he doesn't turn into prime Darrelle Revis either. New England Patriots, Christian Gonzalez. A lot of people had this guy right here, top 10 pick. Out of Oregon. Oregon is my second favorite school for college. Because they would literally, if you weren't running 4.3 or less, they did not recruit you as a skill position. If you didn't run 4.5 or less anywhere else, they were not recruiting you, period, unless you were like offensive lineman. And then offensive lineman, if you didn't run 4.8 or less, you were not getting recruited. And that's why I liked him. All right, Jack Campbell, Iowa. All right, that's a corn-fed man right there. Kalijah Cansey. All right. Kalijah, first time I'm hearing that name. Defensive tackle, again, not as good as Mozzie Wright. I don't know how he got drafted above Mozzie Wright, but he was. Jackson Smith-Njigba, the best receiver in the class. The first one to actually taken off the board, which is crazy, at a premier position like this at 20. Quentin Johnson at a TCU. Now they're just drafting back to back. TCU, shout out TCU. He went number 21 to the Chargers. Deep threat. I just hope he reminds me of Kevin White, maybe just because he has dreads. I hope he doesn't turn out like Kevin White. Zay Flowers, he could be good. Boston College, I feel like Jordan Addison. Probably I would have drafted Jordan Addison if I was the Baltimore Ravens over Zay Flowers. Jordan Addison had a great year at Pitt. And when he was with that Kenny guy who plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers now. Deonte Banks, cornerback with the Maryland. Dalton Kincaid. A lot of people had us taking Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. Mozzie Smith. You're a Dallas Cowboy now. You better put on for the Dallas Cowboys, all right? We need you to be like that vintage, Randy White, type of player. Maybe on the high side, Randy White. Lowest side you can be. For me, still be proud of you, Marcus Spears. If you're Marcus Spears level, we'll still ride with you. All right, Anton Harrison, tackle Oklahoma. Miles Murphy, I think he was supposed to be going a lot higher, but he fell. Brian Breesy, defensive tackle, Clemson, not as good as Mozzie Wright. Nolan Smith. What the hell? How did the Eagles manage to get Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith? Are the Eagles in cahoots with the NFL? How do they keep getting all these players? And they had that absolute humongous guy that got out of Georgia last year too. What's the name of that guy? He was like wore 88. He was like literally the size of a small car. So they just literally going out and get every Georgia player ever. Felix and whatever. We're into this one. Make sure you like, comment, next. Deuces.